Okay, and welcome to this next instalment of the Instant Impact interview series. And I have to say, for everyone that's going to be lucky enough to be listening to this recording, is whether you're in your office, in your car, on your iPod, whatever you're doing, you're really going to want to settle in and focus for the next 45 minutes or so, because it is absolutely my great privilege and pleasure to be able to introduce to you all and welcome to this interview series a very good colleague and friend of mine, Tim Bishop. Tim, welcome to the call.
Hey, thank you so much, Dean. Such an honour to be here.
I am truly excited to get into this. Now, for everyone listening, as a brief background to Tim. Tim spent 10 years in the Australian military. And towards the end of that particular time, I had the good fortune of crossing paths with Tim throughout 2012, most importantly, through some training that he and I were both doing via a group in Melbourne called the Coaching Institute. And at that particular time, Tim and I were both looking to move into the coaching and training space, leadership development space, if you like. And ironically, we're both at a point in our lives and our careers that really meant we needed to do a little bit of self-discovery on just exactly what that step forward would look like. And Tim had a pretty significant part to play in helping me to overcome a number of personal challenges and thought processes that I'd built up over time, and for that I am forever grateful to him. And because of that, it gave me, I think, the beginning of a really deep insight into what we're going to be talking about on today's call, and that is the inherent power in understanding and knowing our own individual purpose. So with that in mind, given that this is such a significant and I think crucial topic to cover on, I want you guys listening out there to put away whatever distraction you've got and really focus in on what Tim's going to deliver over this next 45 minutes, because for me personally it has been, and I don't say this about too many things, it has been life-changing. So you're going to want to focus in. So Tim, I guess to start off really as a broad brush approach to this, the best question I can think of putting across to you is, why is purpose so important?
Oh, wow. I have to reiterate again as well, Dean. Thank you for allowing me to come on this call and add value to every community or member who's going to be listening to it. And I have to reiterate, this is, even in just a short 45 minutes, to provide people with some of the thinking and just some of the groundbreaking insights that have allowed not only you and I but others to really take their life to a whole new stage and grow yourself geometrically. And for purpose, without purpose, nothing can be achieved. It wouldn't matter how much money you make or the influence you think you've had, unless you've got a very clear purpose on what it is you want to achieve with your life. You're not going to get much out of it. And so I ache and emphasize that people must revisit and demand greater clarity on what their purpose is. Now, the only way you can find out what their purpose is to ask yourself quality questions. And you and I both know that, Tony Robbins says, the quality of questions you ask will determine the quality of your life. And its purpose is what gives you drive in the hardest times. It's what energizes you when you just want to throw it all in. And it makes obstacles appear small. And it gives you a destination and paints pictures that bring excitement. And to me, that's one of the greatest things I ever heard was a person with clear purpose will make progress on the roughest road, and a person with no purpose will make no progress on the smoothest of roads. And I really think that sums it up, because life's full of challenges, and it's not about finding the easy street or the less traveled road, but discovering what you believe, what you love, what you're going to fight for, and what you want to give your life to. Some people's purposes can be small or large, It doesn't really matter as long as you're providing value externally to yourself consistently. Because when you give to others, you'll get back. I know Zig Ziglar said it, you help enough get what they want, and you'll get what you want.
Yeah. So, I mean, already there's a number of great, great lessons within that short period of time. And I suppose to build on that, can you give people, I guess, share the contrast between life before, let's say, your life in the military, 10 years in the military.
Yeah, totally.
Which I'm sure has, had a purpose to it, obviously, although it may not have been as clear and as powerful, perhaps, as it has been since the inception of Next Level Group 4 years ago. So perhaps for the people listening, if you could describe for them or give them an example of what changes you've noticed for yourself since being able to find and connect with your unique purpose.
So, wow. So with discovering that purpose, one of the biggest things for me was that, in my world it was, and you'll find in the most world, I mean, look, Australia's sitting at something like 71% anxiety overall. I mean, that's huge. And most, if not vast majority of people in the 90%, at least more than 90% of people in Australia, would not know their purpose. And I don't mean intellectually, I mean emotionally. There's a big difference between knowing something and doing something. And I found that when I was in defence, I thought I knew what I stood for. I wanted to be a leader of men and women. I wanted to serve Australia. And I did those things, but yet I still felt I felt empty. I didn't feel like I was making an impact the way I could be. So I started to ask myself some pretty serious questions like, who am I? And if I was to take off my uniform and my rank, and I didn't have soldiers, who was I? And it was a bit of a disturbing conversation at times after losing some friends on operation. But what I found was through a lot of the pain, which people will have when discovering their purpose, because I think the pain that you experience, no matter what journey you're on, is equivalent to the resources and reward you will experience. There's that Napoleon Hill saying that is that for every failure or resistance, there's an opposite and equal seed of success. And so I was demanding a lot of myself to the point where it was creating huge challenges for me, and that's what I discovered. Someone said to me, "Why don't you become a coach?" And I thought, okay, well, I can. What does a coach do? And they said, "You're already doing it. You're an army officer. You're already helping people succeed." And I thought, well, how can I help anyone succeed if I don't know what I stand for? And so I went on that journey with, with TCI, and they helped a lot. And meeting you along the way, I mean, that was one of the biggest moments of my life when we had that moment together where, like, oh my God, it was like my brain exploded. And discovering what my purpose was through that very demanding process of getting clear with what was it that I wanted to give the world. And what is it, and not only just that, because everyone has a great idea, but you've got to reflect on where you've come from and the resources you've picked up along the way, and not just in the good times, but all the really shitty times. That's where I find the best resources come from. It's not the good times. They just tell you can do it well, but it's in those really challenging, emotional, just, sometimes traumatic times where once you reflect on, you grasp what's sitting there waiting for you to take a hold of. It puts fire back into your stomach, and it's amazing what you can achieve.
And to build on that, to touch on one thread that's already coming through in this conversation, is understanding the critical part that problems play in allowing us to, I think, again, recognise and connect with our purpose. And that, I guess, is to say that, life, whether it's professional, personal, relationships, really is about permanent problem solving. Now, what do I mean by that? If we want to solve no problems, if we want to stay exactly where we are, then simply, any one of us can choose to turn our heads away from the problems and challenges hurdles, obstacles, call them whatever you want, that will present to us in the along the journey of moving forward along life's path. What I find out of purpose is, and what I found for my purpose was, it gave me the fuel, if you like, to drive forward, to keep pushing through all of those obstacles and challenges. Because to me, purpose is very much like planting that flag in the ground, if you like, of saying, well, that is the thing that I'm going after. And when the purpose within us is strong enough, is deep enough, is provides enough emotional pull on us, then really we do feel like that we are prepared, and I use that word deliberately, prepared to push on in spite of those problems, those obstacles, those challenges, to fulfill our own unique purpose. Again, is that a similar way that you've sensed the change within you?
Yeah, I'd say that with that purpose, that whole analogy of that, it gets you through the roughest times, and it's not a force. Purpose is more power. That it's something that it's so much at cause that it can overcome any effect. And one of the things that someone asked me, I remember ages ago, they said, "What's your purpose?" And it's, when someone asks you what your purpose is, they tell you what or how they do something, but not why. And everyone's why is in similar ways, but still vastly unique. And in this particular moment, when I was asked, it's very personal. My purpose is very personal, but I'm cool with sharing it. And one of the things I said was, I strongly believe that leadership is a privilege and a responsibility, and it's an honor. And it has nothing to do with, it has a lot, but it doesn't have anything to do with my military background, because leadership is not just it's a lifelong thing, but it's moments to moments. It's not when you're in front of people all the time. Leadership counts when you're alone. What are you doing when no one's looking? What are you fighting for? It demands a selflessness with a bias for action, to want to empower others, to train. For me, it was to train leaders. It's just not one or two, but an army of people who would like to create an effect or create change in the world, no matter who they are, what they do. It doesn't matter what you do. You can be a garbo collector, street sweeper, a bank manager, a CEO. They're human beings, and what matters is how you interact with other people, because how you make them feel is all they'll remember. And with that purpose, being able to give people the tools to find out who they really are is life-changing, as you and I both know. And it's I believe that as a leader, and you're a leader, in your case with your children, your greatest legacy that you will leave will be the leaders you create and the children you've brought up. And I believe that's what, when you have that purpose, it's not even in your lifetime. It's what am I doing that I'm going to leave behind? But to have that level of thinking, and I'm even saying levels, I presuppose there are levels, and there are. There was one time where I was living week to week, paycheck to paycheck. I never had any money, even though I was getting paid a good wage. And I thought I was a good leader. Now, there's a big difference between what you think and what you say you know versus the results you produce. And that's how I tested my purpose. I thought, if I'm a good leader, then why don't I have any other leaders? If I'm a good leader, why am I not growing myself? If I say I'm creating my purpose but yet still can't language it, then I still don't know my purpose. And if I'm not happy, then it's usually because I have lack of clarity on where I want to go and who I really am. And it's you can ask people, what's that deep burning passion that they have, that they want to achieve? And there's different types of people, and I love what John Maxwell says. He says there's only three types of people. The people who don't know what to do. There's people who don't know what to do, or people. There's that third type of person is the person who doesn't know what to do. Now, if anyone is that type of person, the only way you're going to find out what you want to do is to discover who you really are. It's not where you've come from, but where you're going. And one of the greatest questions that I used to ask clients when I was doing one-on-one coaching, and it was, the definition of hell is meeting the person you could have been at the end of your time. And just hearing that can shake people, and it gives you, in an instant, a neurological image of that person you could potentially be. And that's where people have to be able to be okay with letting go of what was, and being okay about walking into a future that may not be exact, and that's okay. That's what life is. It's ever unfolding moments of now. And that second type of person is somebody who knows what they want to do but still don't do anything. And there's a lot of those. You know, they talk but they don't walk. And that's not to say they're bad or anything like that, because they just may not know how. They may know why, but they just maybe don't know how. And the only suggestions I have for people like that is you've got to come back again. You've got to ask yourself different questions. But if you're not doing it consistently, then what you know, like, it comes to a point where you can only help the horse to water. You can't force it to drink. And this is something that was brought up in a lot of the training sessions we've been running. And you know, I was asked privately, I don't know how many times, like 100 times this last couple of months, Tim, how do I discover my purpose? And you know, those level 2 and level 3 people will always go to that level 1 person. It's not about hierarchy. It's just about clarity. Like you and I, people will approach us continually. You know, people like, you know, Alice or Joe or you know, Tony or Simon Sinek, and you can see in our actions that we have very clear purpose. That we aren't time wasting. That at times, if we do, we are quick to regain the initiative on where we're going. And it's the purpose is not money. It will be to help others. It will always usually be to help others, provide a service that's adding value in a way that is so exponential to others that you inspire and empower and impact their world. And you know, I think one of the key things to your purpose is to ask better questions. And I mean, in the very short time that we've got, I highly recommend that people keep showing up to whatever you're offering, listening to these things, and you know, demanding of whatever, you know, all the services you offer. You know, show me how to ask great questions, because it's something that I don't know if you saw the post. I thought it was beautiful, and I know this person very well because she's my sister. And she said, until you ask the question, you do not have any relationship to the answer. Sit with that. And I thought, wow, isn't that true? You know, Tony Robbins, another way of saying what Tony Robbins said, and it's true. Until you ask that question, which is the key, you're not going to unlock the door. And even when you unlock the door, it's not about getting to that answer. I used to say it to people, when you climb mountains, what's the purpose of climbing a mountain? It's not to get to the top. It's about bringing others with you and seeing the view so you can discover what other mountains exist.
And it's... Go on.
No, you go.
I was going to say that's one of those things about it, which is again, thinking back of the door. Until we discover, and you've got to be prepared for it. You've got to be ready to do this. You've actually got to be willing to reflect deeply on, as you said, who you are and where you're at. Build that in an image of, you know, where you want to be. I love that definition of hell. You know, meeting the person you could have been at the end of your life. Understanding our purpose, finding that purpose, connecting to it. It is that thing that gets you out of bed, but more importantly, it's the thing that gets you out of bed even on the days when you don't feel like it. Because what many of the people listening, what many of the people listening need to understand is that everyone still has down days.
I have.
Yeah. From a business perspective, you still have clients that you thought you were going to get over the line, but you don't. Purpose is not about having a comfortable or consistent life. It's certainly not about having a comfortable or consistent income from time to time. Understanding your purpose, and it's not about, as you said, it's not about saying that, okay, well, my purpose is to be a millionaire. It's fantastic, that's great. But what will having that allow you to do? So purpose then starts to roll over into any one individual's contribution back into the world. And you said it just then, which is when you know your purpose, it removes, certainly my take on what it has meant for me, is that it removes the force of procrastination. Simply what you're deciding to do. So you're always presented with options, choices throughout your day. You can do this, you can do this. You can talk with that person or talk with that person. when you, or you can be asked to do this or asked to do that. When you are deliberately clear and deeply understanding of your own unique purpose, the decision on what to do becomes incredibly simple, because if the thing you're being asked to do or the thing you're looking at doing matches with your purpose, then you just do that. Anything else is wasted time, wasted effort, wasted energy, wasted focus. It allows you to stay on the path that you have set for your future.
I couldn't agree. It is. Totally is. It's a. I mean, it's like I can feel the energy with us at the moment, even though we're talking through a mic. It's one of the things that it's. Look, there's things that we still can't explain, and this is something that, even to this day, we talk about gravity, but yet they still don't know where it actually comes from. It's the power of it's a power of, or the attraction between two objects. I'm like, that's the most unscientific thing I've ever heard, and that's what they still use today for gravity. They have many, they have a lot of theories, and they're still trying to work out why is there even a force? Where does it actually stem from? And so in the world that we're in, regardless if you're in the coaching, training, it doesn't matter. In the world of being a human being, our world, when you have clarity on that purpose, it acts like gravity. It brings to you that which you asked for. That's why I say be very careful what you wish for. I mean, I remember 12 years ago or 15 years ago, I said I want to be a leader of men and women. And when I graduated from Dunedin, I went, shit, it's coming to fruition. And then my whole life went to a new level when I started. When I left defense, I had no rank. No one knew me. I was on the bones of my ass. I did not have a job, and I refused to get one. Not because I don't like working for somebody, but I thought, I need to be. I can be a man. I can really find clarity on what my purpose is. Because if I want to help others do this, then by God, I must do it to myself first. And that's when things started to happen. I started noticing that when you get clear with your purpose or your why, like getting clear with why you wake up in the morning, like you said before, I love that. It's like one thing. I keep talking about John Maxwell. The guy's a genius. I love him. I remember reading one of his books. He said there are two great days in a person's life: the day you were born and the day you discover why. And that, to me, they are the two most important things. It's you're born, and yes, you've got every instrument you need. They make stories and they say, well, I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have the schooling. That's all story. What matters is where you are right now on your map, because that's where you need to be in order to discover where you need to go. And one of the things that with the questions, that the part where you have to be aware of yourself to grow yourself. So like a lot of people want to help the world and change things, but yet they still aren't doing it to themselves. And that cognitive dissonance gap needs to be closed. Like I had a few clients on a call a few days ago, and they said, "Oh no, we know this stuff." And how often do you hear that? That you got to talk about things. People go, "Oh yeah, I know that though. I know that." And I'm like, "Oh, you know that logically. Show me the results you're producing." And they go, "Oh, well, we made this amount of money. We've done this." I'm like, "Great. Show me the difference you have made, not how much you've made." I mean, like one of the beautiful things I've really started to get a grasp of, and you know me firsthand. First year, you and I, we're in that room together with Alice, and Jesus, the tears, Oh, excuse my French, I didn't mean to swear then, but it's when I reflect on it. All the listeners out there, please, I get a bit passionate, and I use colourful words to emphasise predicates. And I thought I had a very similar level of awareness 2 or 3 years ago. What's happened is, through that gravity, through that consistent purpose, that ability to show up, give it your best every day, day in, day out. And some days I was in tears between, today and when you and I spent time in the room. There's days where I thought I wanted to throw my towel in, I wanted to give up. And I had to reconnect with my purpose. But there were times where my purpose wasn't as strong. So I went, well, what do I have to change to make it strong again? So I didn't ask myself shitty questions. I asked myself good questions, which is, how else can I see this? What wood do I need to add to my fire? And I would reflect. I know that I thought, if I'm upset, I only have to think for a moment that there are probably hundreds of thousands of other people just like me that don't have that ability. So I go, I have to be that that flag bearer. I have to be able to get up off my feet, shake myself off, wipe away those tears, and just go, there's people out there that need me. And even if you don't know them yet, it doesn't matter, because it's like the horizon. You know you're not going to fall off the other side. You're not going to fall off the earth. There's either more water or land. We know that. So it's the same thing, knowing that there's people waiting for you. There is an endless supply of business. And it went from being, you know, making, what, 9,000 in my first year? Like, I just covered my expenses and I stayed alive. I went from being on like 80 to 90 grand in the defense to doing like literally 9 grand in that. And I was just like, this is rubbish. This is so hard. And then in the second year, you know, things got better. I kind of went close to what my pay grade was in defense, but you know, I loved it. I loved it even more because I was like, wow, I'm really understanding people, and people, you know, I had people ask me, you know, how did you do it so quickly, or you know, just questions like, well, shouldn't it, you know, the companies that I'm working with now, people go, how did you get there? You know, it's like, and I go, you know, that's not the question. The greater question is, who do you need to be to get there? It's not the destination, but the person who walks the journey. And because that's, to me, that's the goal. It's not where you're going is important, but what was the fire? What was the why? What were the things you had to believe and stand for to overcome all those obstacles, and to do it not just over time, but quite quickly. And what we're experiencing, I mean, humbly, this success that we're getting from the company we're in together at the moment, which, you know, I actually pulled together with these 4 other guys. It's something that I go, God, it's happening. It's really happening. I mean, even with Next Level, which is a separate entity that I'm running full time as well. So, yeah, anyone who goes into business, by the way, 10 more times, don't do it. And if you want to have 2 companies, be prepared to really work. And, you know, we found that, you know, I shared with you, even with Alice, you know, I did 45 or 90, 45, and then another 45 in our first month. So we did like nearly 100K in our first, you know, quarter in profit. And I was like, holy crap. Like, but then I went, well, what does that actually mean? It means that it's proportionate to the change I'm providing to the world. And I went, well, let time tell us. So I didn't get excited about it. You know, a lot of the team were like, oh, this is great. And I went, well, yeah, let's not count our eggs too soon. Let's do this for a couple of years. Let's do this for 10 years and see how we go. You know, let's be replicable and sustainable so we can show others. And then even in this quarter, we did it again and we doubled it. And I just went, I can't believe the numbers that are coming in, but at the same time, the responsibility to look after communities and guide people and to be the person they're looking to, because it's not the thing they buy, it's the person. And they want that energy and clarity. And I think one of the biggest things to fight for, especially I know that you and I fight for, is results. I mean, it's not just creating a community of safety or, you know, where we feel good, but we allow that to happen, but we provide that member or that community or that group the ability to be okay with their fuck-ups, with their mistakes, and to help them discover who they really are, what they love, what's the action they must take, you know, what are the new beliefs, what are the new standards, a whole list of things just to discover what your purpose is. And people, it takes a long time. It can take years. It literally can take years. But it's worth taking years, because I shared this analogy with someone before. I said, how long does it take for a rocket to be built? Like, I mean, a full-blown NASA spacecraft. That thing takes like many, many, many years, many, many millions and millions of, you know, like just dollars and effort and energy to do what? To leave the atmosphere. And purpose is the same. For you to leave that space of possible pain or whatever it may be to that person, you've got to be prepared to really walk your talk and be okay with experiencing some things that will test and challenge you as a human being. And at the same time, none of them come to you out of accident. Every challenge that anyone ever has, good or bad, regardless of its scale, comes to you because that's what you're ready for.
Yeah. Now, again, in that commentary there, I think there's a point in there that needs to be delved into deeper. Not at all. Not at all. Now, when you talk about the journey going there, and that certainly reflects mine. I remember I made $12,500 in my first year. And I was working part-time. I think I was doing it 1 day a fortnight, down to 1 day a week as it went. This was transitioning along from, you know, full-time employment. to this training and coaching business now that I've got. All the while doing it, with a very young family. I mean, when I started, I think my eldest child was 6. He's now 11. We're moving into those. We're getting to the point where the income I'm earning now in training and coaching business is replicating and has matched what I was earning as a full-time employee. And again, I think it's really important for people not to misinterpret anything on this call to suggest that, well, the only way to fulfill your purpose or fulfill your mission is to start your own business and doing that. That certainly was Tim's purpose and my purpose. One of the core things is that, again, going back to what you said, it doesn't matter if you're the bloody local garbage collector, if you're your janitor, if you are a new, if you're the newest member of a team, or if you've moved into middle management, or you're a high-ranking CEO. You will have your own unique purpose, and it is in knowing that gives you the end point to which you will measure your life's contribution back. And now coming back to your point about some of the companies, and likewise companies that we're in now are big. I mean, I came out of a meeting this morning with a 200 business that's turning over 200 million. I know for a fact that you are operating in that space and above. And the question there is not the question. I think that many people would say, as you said, which is, well, how did you get to connect with those businesses? And that's not actually the right question. The right question to ask is, why are we there? And that's the question that I ask myself within it, which is, why am I in that business? And the answer to that is that it's not actually for me. I mean, the financial reward is nice. It's very nice. But the question to answer is, why am I there? And the extension of that is, what am I here to help these people learn for themselves that will allow them to deliver increasing levels of value, of ideas, of innovation, of improvements back into that business? Because someone's purpose might be, and using the example of a construction company, someone's purpose may be, or someone may believe their person is to build, we build houses. However, if that purpose is I think torn down, stripped down right to its bare bones, and it may be to provide safety, security and comfort for the family that is going to raise their kids in that house. Now that becomes an inherently more powerful purpose to have, which means that the engineering is as close to perfection as it can be. It means the quality of conversations that the project manager will have with the the subcontractor, with the the brickie, with the carpenter, with the electrician, will be a lot more a lot more focused, a lot more connected around. We're not just building a house here; we're actually building a family home. And when we understand our purpose on that kind of a level, we actually start to deliver better results, which will obviously, one of the cleanest measures of success is what's the financial reward coming out of that, and that has to be holistic for the individual, the team member, and obviously the business owner. So the question isn't how does someone discover their purpose, although we'll move on to that in a moment, but why would we want to discover our purpose?
And I have to reiterate what you said. You said something really important, which is, I decided to go into business, but at the start, 10 years ago, I wanted to serve in the military. That was my purpose then. And so I think the key theme is that your purpose can change. And it's not about changing and shrinking. Don't ever shrink it. It's like a seed. Once you discover that, you might discover your purpose would be to just add immediate value to your family. It may be to, rock out at sweeping streets, or to rock out as that can be that. But then eventually, as you fulfill that purpose over time, you'll notice it starts to grow, and that's where people start to have those we like to call midlife crisis or midlife awareness, which is, your purpose has been fulfilled for a period of time, and now it's demanding that you take the next level, the next step in that evolution of who you are. And if you don't do it, people suffer unnecessarily. Because I used to say to people, study some of the greatest people that were on this planet in leadership roles, or just people in general. And with purpose, when you've got purpose, you live longer. You literally live longer, because it's one of the things is, with the car I drive, I used to look up to Carroll Shelby. He was that American chicken ranch guy. He raced cars and stuff, and he passed away in 2013. But he only passed away I think it was 4 or 5 days after he declared that he'd finally built what he wanted. It was his lifelong dream to have a charity and a vehicle that he'd designed, and then he passed away just within a week. Same with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, you can hear his final speech, and then only, I think it was 11 or 12 days later, he passed away. Same thing with any of these just people. We're not looking at, people look at people in a hierarchical sense. Just look at them as people. They have all the tools you've got. They've just demanded a different quality of question and internal dialogue. And you can have that. I mean, I'll share briefly a story. When I was in New York, I met one of the gardeners at Central Park, and the guy, I said, "Mate, how long have you been doing this?" And he said, "I've been doing it for 27 years." And he had a really rich American accent. He was American, Afro-American, and he was an old guy. And I said, "Tell me, what do you love about it? Because you just have this sense about you." And he goes, "Mate, look around you. Look at this place. It's beautiful. We created this place, and I have the responsibility. I have the honorable responsibility to keep it clean, to look after it." And I was mesmerized by this guy, because we talked for hours. I sat down, and I walked around with him as well. He was working, and he goes, "I get to meet people every day. I get to see beautiful things. I get to see really sad things. But that's life." And he goes, "But I know what my purpose is, and my purpose is to do the best thing I can do as a human being where I am at." And I just thought, that is what purpose is. Purpose is it's moment to moment. What's as a human being, an endless pursuit of excellence. You're making cakes, make the best damn cake. And I know people, like, when I go to the markets and I just connect with people who just want to serve the client well, I always buy off them. I don't go anywhere else to what's the word? If you don't get that energy vibe, you don't get that connection. People that demand, they just go through the motion. It's obvious, and then you get with people who sometimes are unconsciously very clear with their purpose, and it's quite magical, and you feel attracted to that. So
yeah. Now, the interesting thing that I found, this has been my experience, and I'd love to get your take on it, is that when any one person finds their purpose. Now, to give you an example, and we'll move on to how I found mine, which I'm sure will be different to yours in a moment. Have that conversation. What I've noticed though, since finding my purpose, and I clearly remember the day. It was actually nearly 3 years ago. I was away on a holiday with my family. My wife was sleeping, having a rest, having a nap, as you do on holiday. And someone gave me this book, and I worked through these particular exercises, which I now incorporate, into the program and the coaching that I do with my clients or teams. And what I've since noticed is that purpose actually rolls through different areas of my life. So that one thing that I literally define my days on, that I define my decisions by, or that I define me by, interactions, questions by, actually has gone over. So it now is the foundational cornerstone, hallmark, if you like, true north of what I do in my business. It's a defining symbol, a defining mission of how I want to raise and empower, if you like, my children, my 3 beautiful children. And it's also led to me, getting more deeply involved with our local community club, where I coach my eldest boys footy team, and am now junior chairperson. And the mission that my business is built around is actually a thing that I'm now becoming aware of, that my life is getting built around. Again, for the people listening, is that something that you've noticed either from yourself or with your clients, that becomes a consistent theme, or it becomes an undercurrent for their existence?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I can agree more. It's just the it's like I know I'm not excellent at everything. I'm not. I'm just not. That's why we have more. That's why there's people on the planet. Everyone's excellent at something. It's just what is it, and how is it? And it's not just from an individual sense. It's from a adding value external sense. And like there's a flow-on effect. I find that in different areas of my life, it does flow into like even how you're outstanding at what you do as a coach, facilitator, and elite professional. You don't just turn on and then turn off. It doesn't work like that. Remember, it's who you're really being when no one's around. That's really who you are. It's not who you are in front of people, because there's plenty of people we know who have been amazing people in front of people, and unfortunately behind the scenes they disappear because they've taken themselves out. And that's an extreme example, but it happens often. So it's not that extreme because people know it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's a lack of purpose. But when you let your purpose seep and creep into the other avenues of your life and your existence, it just adds so much value. Like, I suck at some stuff. Like, I suck at understanding company. Oh man, like the stuff we're going through with the company we've got. I mean, you got different shareholdings, different agreements, and voting rights, and I'm just like, man, I just want to get the job done. But you can't just smear that stuff off. You've got to have an understanding, or as a human, just anyone, if you're good at your job but you suck at home, then what you can do is take what you know that works at work and bring it into your home or bring it into your family. And your purpose is not just about a thing; it's about who you're being. And when you strive for an excellence or a service that even when people aren't around, be consistent even when you're alone. So read that book and follow through with it. Write down your goals and challenge yourself. Turn off the friggin' TV and the news. Unless of course you're trying to learn something to add value. Purpose is, to me, like, I have people I've come across who go, Tim, I want to make more money, and I say, for what reason? For what purpose? And and then you get some people who just, they go, I don't care about that. I just want to make money, and I don't work with those people. You work with those who are like, I want clarity on who I am, what I stand for, why I have it, and at the same time, I'd love to make a greater profit or to have a greater sense of who I am. It doesn't have to be tied to money. And I have to agree. It's a really powerful purpose. Will seep and interact with every avenue of your life.
Yeah.
Every aspect.
As you've been saying, I've literally just written down a little model here, and at the top I've got purpose. It's a triangle, if you like. At the top I've got purpose. We're already saying how important it is to find one's purpose. And two things I've written outside of that. Well, when you know your purpose, it actually starts to stir up your passions. You build that emotional connection, that emotional drive, that inner drive to working incredibly hard. Because again, I would say that none of this has come easy, if you like. It hasn't been handed to. No. I don't think anyone that's committed to following their purpose. And let's think of some of the greats. Gandhi, Mother Teresa. Martin Luther King. I mean, they were very clear on their purpose. If you want to think of globally on individuals who many people listening will recognise, nothing about what they did came easy. They were very clear on their purpose, but they had a passion for doing what they were doing, and through that combination of purpose and passion, which are very positive energies, it builds into that third one, which is persistence. And again, going full circle what we said before, when you're very clear on your purpose and you follow that with a great level of passion, then you are going to persist for longer than someone who is not clear on their purpose, in which case you will present yourself with enough opportunities to get closer to the thing that you are trying to achieve or seeking to achieve from meeting your purpose. Now, that's all really valuable stuff. The question that I'm sure people are going to have on their lips is, so how do you find your purpose? What do you do? So what could you or would you say to people who are sitting on sitting into this call, listening to this interview and going, well, fantastic, yeah, I get it. I am passionate about stuff. I'm not quite sure on what my purpose is. I think I might know. I don't really know. How would you encourage people to go about finding their own unique purpose?
That's a bloody good question. I think that one of the greatest ways to find out people's purpose is it's got to be questions. It's always going to be questions, because even in the a purpose is an answer. You know, finding out your purpose is an answer in itself. So if people go, I want to find out what my purpose is. Well, that's actually an answer. And I think, you know, something I said to you before was the quality of the question will determine the quality of the answer you get. And so by having a strong relationship with that question, you'll find a really strong relationship with an answer. So some of this, it's not about asking complicated questions. It's not that at all. What it's about is asking simple questions that maybe frighten you, that, you know, are deep and very powerful. Things like, who am I? And not looking for an answer again. Because the next question that opens up that is, well, you may not know who you are, but the next most beautiful question could be, well, who could you be?
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that I love to say to people is, you're not your past, and we form this idea that because of our past we are fixed and that we are who we are, and that's not true. The reason we have multiple different behaviors is because you know, behavior based on what you have is based on who you're being. So to be able to ask yourself little questions like, what would you like to do? You know, what are you good at? And it's not about asking a question and then getting the answer. It's about just asking the question and letting it sit. You know, what talents and skills or opportunities do you possess that support your desire to do what you want to do? You know, and there's a lot of doing there. And for some people, it's not about asking. You got to ask multiple questions. It's not about approaching a tennis ball from one angle. It's about coming from every angle, because everyone's different. So one question I ask you, you may go, yeah, it doesn't land with me. I ask someone else on the street, and they go, wow, that really helps me out. And I'm finding that being able to ask yourself 100, you know, 1,000, 1,000,000 questions, it may only just be one that you need. But you can't have that one. It's like, you know, you and I would know firsthand when it comes to clients. The first client never said yes. You know, I mean, the first client did say yes, but I mean, technically, they would have been maybe the 10th or 20th or 50th prospect.
Yes.
And you know, you get rejection, but it's the same with the questions you ask yourself. But people give up. You know, like the ultimate remedy for success is look at children. You know, look what, you know, people go, I go, the secret formula. It's like what Tony says. It's like, no wonder everyone walks on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you said, it's persistence, it's consistency. And I think through our own environmental upbringing conditioning, we forget that curiosity and drop off. It doesn't disappear. It just turns down. That passion that like a child would have. You know, that consistency. What do they always ask? Why? 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 And you know what? And it annoys the shit out of parents. They're like, oh man, you're always asking why. You know, but that's what adults need to do. That's what we've actually forgotten to do, and we have to remind ourselves that it's through our why that we will find our purpose, passion, and usually it will always land with people. I mean, the rooms that we have hundreds of different people, but they end up going, I just want to help people. I go, funny that. That's where oxytocin is, you know, like why we have oxytocin. It's the fact that it's like the greatest feeling you'll ever get. Notice that time of when you had that great feeling. It'll be when you gave something to somebody and expected nothing in return. That is it. That is it.
It's interesting you say that, and I'm going to come back and touch on that in a moment. But as you were saying, you know, it's the quality of question. It can be simple questions. I just wrote down a few here. I mean, if anyone listening wants to start to discover their purpose, and it is a journey of discovery.
It is.
I just wrote down here. You know, what do I enjoy? These are the questions that you know you could ask yourself. What do I enjoy? What do I do well? What would I like to do? What could I be world class at? And what can I help others to do well? Start there, and you're actually starting that process of discovery to find out what your unique purpose is. Now, interestingly, as you said there, you know, the one response I encounter, I think probably a little too often, is someone says, well, you know, my life's purpose is to be happy. And I want to challenge people's thinking around that. If people are thinking, well, the purpose of life is to be happy, agreed. I'm going to challenge that thinking by saying that happiness is never the goal in life, because our happiness is the result of achieving our goals in life.
That's right.
So discovering our purpose will allow you to set bigger, brighter, bolder, braver goals that you will work purposefully and persistently towards achieving. And in doing so, your happiness will be born out of the fact that you will fail along that path. You will fall down along that path. You will fall off of that path from time to time. Coming back onto it, working towards your purpose, you will begin to discover for yourself that in working towards your life purpose, you actually learn more about yourself, that you are smarter than you think, you're braver than you think, you're humbler than you think, you're more persistent than you think. So I really think this is a good opportunity just to take a small change in direction and get your thoughts on, people shouldn't confuse purpose with happiness. So add to that quickly.
Well, I think that's such a great point you brought up. One of the things that I found that was, you said happiness is just a moment in time. It's not something you can live. Even chemically, as a human being, you can't live in a state of euphoric happiness all the time, or you're on drugs, and it doesn't work like that. I don't think, by saying that I'm not, I'm happy now, but it's not like people go, I want to have happiness, but the thing is, by saying that, you're presupposing that you don't, and by doing that, you're only reinforcing your mind that you don't have something, and there's something that has to be, you have to do something to have that, and it's not true. You can have happiness just noticing the small things in your day. If you want to feel happy, let's do that in 2 minutes. Notice how your heart's still beating. Notice that your legs are still working. By God, be happy about it. Be God that even if you've lost everything, that you can go outside, take a deep breath, and go, I'm all right. I'm still here. And I think that's something great to charge. I hope that it rubs some people, because we're not here to tell you everything you want to hear, because that's why the world is the way it is at the moment. That's why we have people spending beyond their means. It's why we have obesity issues. It's why there's a lack of purpose in people's life. It's also why there's challenge with banking institutes, with layoffs. There's people. I go, but this is all just it's all effects. We've got to go back to cause, and until you go back to cause, happiness is an effect. It's not a cause. The cause of doing something will create happiness. So having purpose is a cause, and through that purpose, you and I will know, and those who are listening who have clarity on their purpose and are producing results, not for themselves but for also others, will understand that through all that pain, or all that discomfort, all that change, and the resistance to it, and all the sacrifice, and you just to have that little point of happiness, of clarity on who you are and what you stand for, but it's equal and worth it. And that's why I think the whole happiness thing is a oh God, how do you explain it? It's like, oh goodness, how do you say it? Someone said to me the other day, it's you know what? It's a horizon. It's something that you can always see. You always move towards it, but you never quite get there. And it's instead of aiming, instead of trying to go, oh, I want to get there, I want to have happiness, or whatever it may be. It's be cool where you're at. Be happy with what you've got. Notice where you're standing and all the great things you've got in your world. Like I've got to reiterate. People go, they know this, or they say, I know mindset. That's my favorite. Oh, I know mindset. And look, if people learn mindset and they love mediocrity, cool. We probably won't cross paths. But if they know mindset and they want help on it, then one, they're talking to Mr. Dean Evans. They're going to find it quickly, and it's one of the things that I think people need to remove that even from their realm of thinking is life's about happiness. Life is about purpose. Life is about service. And that's not just because I'm Army. Yes, I have a bias towards that mentality, but not every military guy is orientated like that. I think you can. That's just something that amplified what I discovered. And same with you. It's the ability to serve others is our greatest purpose as human beings, is to be able to give to others. I looked at a study, and they look at economies where there's lots of abundance, there's a lot of waste, and there's a lot of what's the word? Scrooge McDuck mentality, which is I will hold on to this because I don't want to give it away. Yet in other cultures, when I was overseas, and some of the stories I heard from some of my peers and even friends, you go to cultures where they have nothing and they still give. They still give you something. And I just go, man. I mean, I spent the first part of this year, doing a company planning in Bali, and it was such a shock to go there and just to see people. I used to watch them work, and they're out there in the fields and they're working from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and they're still smiling. They're all laughing. They don't have a, I say materialistically, they wouldn't even have a 1/50th of what I've got. But they've got something else that I know I share in common with a lot of them, and something that you would too, is it's a clarity on what they're doing. And it's funny, I find that a lot of people in those environments actually have a lot of clear purpose, and I think a lot of people from the Western world can learn from those types of communities. I mean, you only have to listen to, young children who have had, some awful upbringings, who find that gift at an early age. You ask them what they want to do, and they say, I want to make a difference in the world. My purpose is to be the best I can be at whatever I do. And they language it in such a beautiful way that it makes perfect sense. And I think the happiness effect, or whatever it is, it's. I say to people nicely, you got to get real. That's not what life is. Not about feeling happy, because that's selfish. You're not. Happiness is a self thing. I said, but if it's to make other people happy and help other people, then go for it. I guess you'll feel happy when you help others be happy. So.
And I guess to look to bring that together, one could say that if happiness is standing on the shore, well, if people are suggesting happiness is standing on the shore and thinking, well, you'll be happy when you get to the horizon, perhaps we could say that when you can begin to ask yourself the questions that are going to help you to discover your own purpose, that's what's actually going to create new horizons, and therefore more opportunity to experience that sense of happiness, which is coupled with achieving the things that have meaning and heart and purpose for us. So looking at that, and mindful that we're getting right to the end of the recording here. Let me ask you this wonderful question. I mean, again, this could go on for hours, this conversation. But let me ask you this question: what's your purpose?
Well, there you go. You've asked me it. So, my purpose. That's what I was saying. It's not like a one-liner, and my purpose was, it is, and still to this day, was to be the best leader I can be, not for me, but for others, because in a time of chaos and disparity, people look to others for help and guidance. And that's not to say that I don't know I know what's exactly going on, because I'm just as scared as times as everyone else. And it was through that the awareness of my responsibility and accountability and my passion for others' lives, to the point where, I find myself, I do get emotional when I see kids watching trash on TV, or, full-grown men and adults wasting their time with the news, because I think, that's your purpose that's not your purpose, but who am I to judge? The reason why I bring that up is because my learnings are not my law. They're not my opinions. They're laws. The law of giving then getting, the law of reciprocity, the law of gravity, the law of attraction. They're all laws, and when you abide by them, it's like the ecosystem. Trees do not grow because they want to grow. They grow because they're providing a particular service or support to the ecosystem, and in doing so, the ecosystem provides back. The beautiful thing about nature is it is fully balanced. Human beings are not. We have every gift, but we also have the ability to be logical, which is, I think, what wrecks it a little bit. And life can be tough, and it will shake you, and even at times attempt to break you. And I'm finding more often than not, the thing that wakes me up every morning is knowing that, when I open my eyes, I can feel tired as rat shit, excuse my French, or exhausted. But to be able to go in front of people and to be authentic, to be transparent, and to be that guiding light for them in that moment so that they can change their life geometrically is the ultimate gift. And I think, how powerful my purpose is is the fact that I think I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm not going to change what I'm doing. I will do this for the rest of my life. I don't think I'll do anything else. And, you know, what is it that I do, though? I mean, you're hearing my why. You know, I believe there's a leader in every single man. I think there's a leader in every single woman. I believe that everyone has a purpose, and they need to discover what that purpose is. I also believe that we're in this together. We may be individuals, but at the end of the day, it's the power of going together that allows us to go so far, and that is the only reason as a human race we have come this far, as we've worked together. And I think at this point in time with society, there is a huge demand on our ability to come back to our cause and to recognize that we have to change the way we're behaving, and go back to, you know, what is it that I'm doing that's adding value.
Yes.
So
I think that really brings to, you know, a natural, well, I was going to say conclusion, but really it doesn't. It might conclude this particular conversation. What I think it actually opens up is the opportunity for people to consider this one thing, which is the purpose becomes, no matter what you do, whether you're tired, whether you're disappointed, whether you're frustrated, whether you're angry, whether you're fearful, which are all natural responses that every single human being should and will experience in life. It is simply that.
I like that.
Is simply to turn up with meaning, with intention, with direction, which is in fact a purpose for doing the thing that you are about to do. So if you're about to go and, in a business sense, if you're about to go and meet with a new prospect, huge prospect, turn up with meaning, with intent. Be very clear on the purpose, both of what you, number one, of the purpose that you want to give, and therefore, you know, the purpose of what you're looking to receive out of the act of giving. You know, it is that give and take. If you're about to go into a performance development or performance appraisal with staff, be very clear on the intention, the purpose of that particular hour. If someone comes to you with a problem, find the skills, deliver the skills, develop the skills, find someone to help you deliver and develop those skills to help that individual discover their purpose within the problem they're presenting to you, because purpose drives every single individual's behaviour. And when we can become clearer on our own purpose and help other people to become clearer on their purpose, we actually elevate the quality of the conversation, which is designed around the best possible solution, the best possible pathway for moving forward, as opposed to what we so often find is that through lack of purpose, we just get further and further and further beaten down by a consistent conversation around the problem. The problem is the quality of thinking up until this stage. The solution to that is identifying the purpose, the why someone will want to move beyond where they currently are.
And I could, yeah, it's I'm just sitting there listening to you, and it's, you know, I was thinking, I want to add a little bit more value to what we're concluding on here, because it is, you know, this has only been what, 45 minutes to an hour, and, you know,
Yeah.
this is, you know, if anything, this is going to help people, just giving them a gentle kick in the butt or a poke, or, you know, just to give them a bit of a wake-up call, which is what it's all about. It's about helping others succeed. Not about telling you what you're not doing. And at the same time, if people interpret it, great. Maybe you're not doing it. Let's get you moving. And
Yeah.
you know, someone asked me, how did you find your purpose? And I think that was pretty interesting. And I think it was through a series of things, but when it really clicked for me, it was in my own leadership journey, and when I lost friends in the army, to reflect on the fact that life is just far too short. You know, people go, well, that's perception, or you can see it as long, and I go, yeah, I get that, but when you know there's been guys on this planet that didn't even get to, you know, buy their own house, or start a family, or experience a true level of love, or to hang out with their father or mother a last time, or to see their children before they got unfortunately removed from this realm. You know, I took that in such in a deep way that it emotionally drove me to find my passion and my purpose very quickly. That knowing your purpose, and I found my purpose in those really dark moments. That what about people who aren't finding it? And they're going to be experiencing unnecessary pain, and they're going to feel unfulfilled. And people are screaming for great leaders. So my particular vehicle is leadership. I don't sell on that though. I mean, that's my personal thing that I use, leadership. So how I talk, how I walk, how I interact, how I dress, everything. Even when I'm alone, you know, my partner used to say to me, "You're always dressing up when you go out." I go, "It's because you dress the way you want to be addressed." And people don't buy from someone in board shorts and a fitness singlet. And it's not about material objects that people are pulled by. And so the greatest purpose I have is to give my life to my work. That is my ultimate purpose, is to give my life to what I work, which is people. So ultimately my purpose is to give my life to people. And I think I can do anything. I can do so much to that. I have an endless amount of solutions to all the challenges and problems that other people have, because ultimately that's what we do. That's what you and I do. We're problem solvers for other people's. We provide solutions to other people's problems. Because when you try to figure out your own problem, you know, someone said to me, he goes, "Oh, I'm just stuck," you know. I went, "Well, who else do you know who's stuck?" "Oh, I know heaps of people who are stuck." I said, "Go help them. Get unstuck, and you'll probably find that your stuckness will disappear." And you know, and it's just doing that. Be the best you can be, not for you, but for others to follow. And I really think for me that's you know, as best I can summarize it for now until I write a book. It's I believe that's, you know, its purpose is a very personal journey, but God, you can there are people like yourself and I and all those other people that can really help you find it quicker than you might notice, instead of going through unnecessary pain. And that's what coaches, facilitators, and, well, let's be very clear, good quality coaches and facilitators. I mean, people like, we sort of take away from those who are out there fighting for it, but you can't give what you don't have. You know, you and I we're still walking the journey. We've gone through our things, and you know, it's such a great what's the word? It's a great feeling of responsibility when you know you've got something to offer others. It's not about telling them what to do, but invoking a thought process that allows them to figure out who they are and where they'd like to go.
Yeah. So, exactly. And I think in many cases doing that allows people to bring some, you know, a level of or a measurable into their world, which is, well, if I'm living with purpose, I'm actually moving forward. I'm making decisions based on what you said at the start, which is legacy, because our purpose will lead to our legacy. And in our final days, whether that's young, whether that's middle age, whether you know that's old, all of us will want to get back. We'll want to get to that point where we'll look back and go, "Hey, we left a mark on the world." You know, and you will. Every one of us. I say this unequivocally. There's not too many things that I say that I know, but this I do know from learning from people who've gone, you know, before me and before us, is that by following your purpose, you will leave a long-lasting legacy that you will be proud to look back on, and people will genuinely feel, you know, a warmth that they were connected to you or a part of it, because, you know, people who have a similar purpose will also, you will find them along that path. They're already walking there, and it is such a energized, as you use it, is such an energetic feeling to live life knowing what your purpose is. As I said, you know, when I sat down and went through it, it is now the tagline of my business, which is creating tomorrow's leaders today. That is my purpose. It becomes very simple, and you know, one of the reasons very much why you know, I invited you, Tim, onto the call today, because you know, you are also very much about creating tomorrow's leaders today, doing it in your way, aligned with your purpose and with your skills. And with that, I think it is a very powerful example of two things. One, that, you know, purpose will allow you to overcome, to persist long enough, stay in the game, keep showing up. Just do that one more thing that will allow you to overcome.
Keep showing up.
Keep showing up. The thing you're there. And number two, that it is through that you actually end up discovering more and more and more about yourself that you really didn't know existed. And also that it's not an instantaneous process. I was 38 until 37, 38 until I discovered my purpose.
Yeah.
One of the things here is that if any individual can do that earlier, then great. You know, it has served a higher purpose. That's served a higher purpose. Well, I'd love to, again, I'd like to really extend my deepest thanks and gratitude to you, Tim, for taking out time from your busy.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, from your busy schedule for sharing your insights and expertise on the topic of purpose. For the people listening, I trust, if anything, that this interview has left you with more questions than answered. Because I think we've done the best we possibly can in the time we've had available today to outline for you and allow you to see rather clearly that it is not about the answer. It is not the answer you're seeking. It is the question that needs to be asked that's going to ultimately determine what your answer will be in terms of discovering and finding your own unique purpose. So with that in mind, Tim, once again, thank you so much for your time. To everyone, I really do appreciate it, and to everyone on the call, here's to you beginning that journey of finding your purpose and bringing light, love and laughter into the world in whichever way you possibly can. So this is me from and with Tim signing off for today. Enjoy now. Bye.
Thank you so much, Dean. See you later.
Bye now.